The last couple of weeks on this show, we've talked about people who, even though we don't like it, are on an upward trajectory in terms of their career and their public life. Wes Huff, Donald Trump, unfortunately. Today, we are going to talk about somebody whose life has been going in a different direction, career-wise and
Yeah.
public persona-wise, as we do the next chapter in Brad Stine's book. All that and maybe more on
Zadanza. All right. We're here.
All right.
We're queer. We're ready to steer. Just kidding. I'm not a part of the queer community, and I will not take credit for something or clout for what I don't have. Anyway, what's up, Zod? How's it going? How's your week?
I don't know. That was a great, not awkward little thing you did there. So good job.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks.
We more or less steered through the cold opening, so we had to run a short at some point.
I gotta say, Zod, that's a top 5 right there.
Really? Well, thank
you.
you.
Absolutely. Good job on that.
I thought of it all by myself.
Yeah, you were really good on it. Yeah, I was just telling you right before the show here. I was working real hard today, and I had to do a lot of thinking for work, and I had to do a lot of reading on some stuff, and had to figure out some stuff. And I just had this thought today. I'm probably working harder today than I think Brad Stine has probably worked on at any amount of time that he's written this book, I think, at least from what we've seen so far. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to see what wisdom the prophet has for us tonight and for you to dispense that wisdom to us. So,
well, Don't make assumptions based on what I read in this book. Brad worked really hard on this thing.
Yeah, really, really hard. You can tell a lot of work.
Everything is original. It's all, it shows minimal effort in grammar and syntax.
Mm-hmm.
None of it is just borrowed verbatim out of his comedy routine. So
I'd expect nothing less from God's comic, only the best.
So should we start reading? Because we got an action-packed chapter 2.
Absolutely. I don't know what it is about Brad. I'm pulling out all the stops tonight, folks. I'm drinking some nice Sprite. Some nice Sprite. I'm going very quickly with that because YouTube's kind of crazy about that. But you know what? I don't know what it is about this show, but it just feels like it's right. So I'm ready to sit back, relax, and enjoy. Oh, should I put the fire on?
Oh, yes, please. Please do.
Let's get the fire going. Let's get that started.
It's cold up here in Alaska.
Yeah, I bet it's real cold. Let me put something on.
It was actually warm. We were in the 40s and
oh, yeah, I read about that actually.
Raining sideways and everything melting off. And now all of a sudden we're down to
how it's like
0.
Unseasonably warm to a concerning degree right now, right?
Yeah, it's almost like the climate's changing.
It's almost like let's see, how's that sound? Can you hear it? Or no?
Yep. Now let's get rid of the is
that too loud?
Overlay in front of you. Maybe down a touch.
Okay, let's turn it down just a little bit. Ooh. Just a little bit there. There we go. Get that nice fire going. All right, I'm ready for this.
All right. Jason Sherwood, by the way, says every time Brad Stine puts out a thing, Zadanza gets their wings. Steve Weber said he doesn't even have a table of context. I'm not sure what that means. I don't know if you literally mean a table of contents or if that's supposed to be a joke. It does have a table of contents. It says
that's good.
Contents right there.
That's what I hope for the bare minimum of a book.
I really, really doubt he wrote and or formatted that or was even involved in it, but I don't know. Not really that important. What is important is, so we had our introduction. We had chapter 1, which is about Christians see the devil everywhere, right?
Right, of course.
So this one is titled Dead People Always Run Late. Assume truth too. Christians shouldn't hurt over death. So,
Okay.
do you know generally what this is probably referring to?
So I mean, it sounds like this is the gospel message part where Christians shouldn't be afraid of dying, but also maybe this is his zingers about how people should. Oh, I got it, Zod. Okay, so in the same line of reasoning that children with cancer aren't brave, I think what's happening here is that Mr. Stein's going to make the case. Look, why are you crying over your grandma dead at the funeral? You know you're going to see her in heaven, so you should stop crying about it. I think
Okay,
that's
so
where we're going. Are we going there?
actually opposite. Remember,
Okay.
these are 11 assumed truths that make us look stupid. So the assumed truth is that Christians shouldn't hurt over death. So he's actually supposed to be criticizing this idea.
Okay. Wait, so he's saying that we should feel hurt over death? Interesting.
Yeah.
All
Or that
right.
it's dumb that Chris. So in the first one,
That's like a
it's
reasonable, normal person response. That's why I'm kind of surprised at that, because I would expect him to take the exact logical opposite take on that.
well. Remember the first one, he has a way in this book of like leaning towards saying something sensible and then just driving the car off the road and crashing it into, I don't know, a tree or something. So he's like, this book is his attempt at being sensible. He sees all these things that the dumb supposed Christians believe, and he wants to take the kind of intellectual approach to the whole thing.
Of course.
So
That's Brad Stein's
so
usual MO, is to take the intellectual approach.
yeah,
He's all about that.
subverting expectations, old nerdy bastard says. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. He wants to be the smarter version of Christianity, and so let's just see, number one, how well he does that, and number two, how much of this chapter actually focuses on this issue in any capacity whatsoever. That's called foreshadowing right there.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So chapter 2 opens up, as Brad Stine likes to do, with his comedy routine. So here we go. Try to picture Brad Stine's voice. I'm not going to imitate it for you.
All right, we'll do.
I can't stand being late. I'm one of those people who will get to an event 30 minutes early, then hide down the street until it's time to arrive. Consequently, people who are late drive me crazy, especially the chronically late. They bug me because they act like it's not their fault, like it's encoded in their genes. They seem to think no one is inconvenienced, and we all actually find them to be quirky and quaint. Parentheses, by the way, not everyone can use 2 of the 12 existing Q words in one sentence. I'm good. So
wait, hold on. Wait, what? He thinks there's only 2 Q words?
Yeah, 12. He says he used 2 of the 12 Q
2 of the
words.
12. Oh, I missed that part. Okay, yeah, okay. So that's interesting. I guess that's kind of funny. I don't know. I don't actually expect Brad to believe there's only 12 Q words in existence. I'm assuming that's part of the joke, but I guess it's kind of weird because I don't know. Okay, now I'm mixed on it. Never mind.
Yeah. It's a very Brad Stine trying to tell a joke in writing joke from what we've seen already so far.
That's true.
He makes these little comments about language that just aren't very funny. And this annoyed me enough that I looked it up. There are 51. I found a list of 51 letters in English that start with Q. By narrowing down anything that was like a derivation of another word and, wasn't total common usage, there was at least 31 like actual clear English words that start with Q. So I don't see how saying there's only 12 would be a joke. It just seems like maybe he's just a lazy old piece of shit.
I think that's the confusing part. That's like wait, huh? Wait, what do you mean there's only 12? Because I guess he is like, the joke is he's implying that there's not that many Q words. So like you could, here's some workshopping for you, Brad. You could have rewritten that to say, maybe try seeing how many times you can use or how many words you can put in a sentence that begin with the letter Q or something, or see how many Q words you can fit into a sentence. Like that makes more sense than like, oh, there's 12 and I got the 2. I don't know.
You know what I would have done? I would have dragged the mouse across the last 2 sentences and just hit delete.
Just delete the whole thing. Yeah, that's probably the better move.
There was no need for any of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, again, like, I don't know, different cultures have different ideas about what's appropriate to be on time for and what's not. It's not uncommon to see in other cultures that when you say you're going to meet at one time, that everybody actually shows up 5 or even 15 minutes later. Like, that's not, I don't know. There's some different expectations there, I guess.
Even within white American culture, like the more Slavic, like the Slavic descended Americans, they will more show up at if you show up right on time, they're like, well, what are you doing here? If you're more German, like Scandinavian from Minnesota, if they say 6 o'clock and you're not there at 5:58, what the hell, you threw off our whole thing and now the night's ruined. Like, it just a lot depends.
But Brad Stine, not a cultural studies guy, right? No. Not his favorite. We've seen,
but he does seem to be very proud of the fact that he supposedly shows up a half hour early and lingers like a weirdo on the street until something starts.
Listen, I'm not going to pretend like I haven't done that before, okay? Because I definitely have, but not to every single thing I go to. That's a little much.
Well, I'm not going to virtue signal about it either. Like when I was in college, I was there like 15, 20 minutes just sitting at my desk and then I'd get up and wander around because I like to be places on time. Like,
sure,
I will literally show up to work half hour or an hour to 45 minutes early and then just sit in a conference room and work on my personal stuff until it's time because I don't want to be late and skip traffic. So I get that, but like, you don't need to be a dick about it. That's kind of Brad's typical problem. Even if he does something right, he does it the wrong way.
Yeah, this is a problem with most comedians, but with Brad Stine especially, because like some comedians can be a dick and be funny about it at least, or have other stuff going for him. Brad Stine is just a dick, and he thinks that that's what makes him funny.
Yeah.
So, it's a real catch-22.
So he says they never act contrite. That's all I'm really asking from the late person. Contrition. Something simple like, I am so sorry. What can I do to repay you? Then we would have actual punishment.
Oh my God.
You must stand in line for me at the DMV and call me when it's my turn and the like. Oh my God. But the only people, so we got some DMV humor.
Yeah, of course he uses the word contrition. That's such a Christian word, right? Like, I don't know.
It's like the nice, perfect convergence of Christian and pretentious comedian language.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But the only people who are sorry for being late are those of us who rarely are! Exclamation point. The chronic lateaholics are never sorry! Exclamation point. Worse yet, they think it's funny! Exclamation point. Literally every single one of those sentences ended with an exclamation point.
Worse yet, they think it's funny! I can already see him doing it as well. That's so great.
And the way I read that, having heard his comedy, is the exclamation points are his way of making sure we know he's shouting that line at us, right? So we understand how funny it is.
At the top of his fucking lungs too, and like making some goofy face.
And like bending over like this, like he's pooping. You think it's funny?
You're so right. He's like it's like the worst of the dad jokes. It's because it's a dad delivery, but it's not even a good dad joke, right? I don't know. It's bad.
Yeah, he has to work himself up to a greasy sweat in his lounge lizard suit. While he's...
Okay, all right. Well,
they always come bounding in, completely unaware of the time. Why do they even wear watches? Since apparently time isn't a set standard of measurement for them. It's only a suggestion! Exclamation point. They see time as their enemy, and they take it personally! Exclamation point. That's why they say they're killing time! Exclamation point. They're like the mafia. They want it dead! Exclamation point. I'll stop doing that. But seriously.
Oh my fucking God. Holy fuck. That is crazy. This is a grown-ass man doing this. This is a book that's meant for adults, right? This isn't meant for young children under the ages of 6.
It reminds me of when I was younger. It would drive me crazy when in some comics they would end everything with an exclamation point no matter what they said. Brad's doing that like in an actual book. And when you do it this repetitively, it gets super annoying.
It's true. Evan Sachs is saying, is there such thing as a good dad joke? Absolutely. Absolutely there's such a thing as a good dad joke. It's all about delivery and vibes. I think, you know, like you can absolutely pull it off. He is not pulling it off, Mr. Stine. I don't think he can.
Yep. Yeah, you have to tell dad jokes in the right time in the right place, and they're usually personal,
Mm-hmm.
and it depends on the interaction with you and the person. And you usually tell them from a place of a certain amount of humility. It's meant to be a little bit self-deprecating, obviously.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
Brad is like, when he tries to come off as self-deprecating, it just comes off as that much more arrogant.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is he keeps going on with this. You know, they want time dead like the mafia, and time's all whatever. I'm running late. Ah, shucks. Blah blah blah. And then they always use verbs. I'm skipping over and then going to this. And then
Yeah.
they
So
always use.
what the fuck is the point of this chapter, by the way? we're complaining about. Is it just complaining about late people? What's going on so far?
Yeah, keep that question in mind.
Okay.
You, Dan, and the chat. Keep in mind this chapter is supposed to be about Christians thinking you shouldn't hurt over death and how that's wrong. That's what this chapter is supposed to be about. Now, obviously, he's going to start the chapter open with. He's going to open the chapter with a some of his comedy, right? That's supposed to mix things up, lighten it up, and make it funny, just as a segue. That conceptually, I understand that, even though he's horrible at it. He's horrible both at the jokes and at easing into his topics, as we're going to see here. But I get what he's doing. But once we get past this and then get into and then back out of the actual topic, think about how much time we actually spent on it. And I will draw your attention to it by the time we're done.
I'm ready for it.
But here we're still in the running late thing. And you'll see how this supposedly ties into the death thing. And when you see how it ties in, it's just going to make it worse.
Great.
And they always use verbs to describe their behavior that never reflect what's really going on, is in the term running late. First problem, what does the term running late even mean? It's an oxymoron. How can you be running and late at the same time? Get it, Dan?
I want to end myself right now. This is terrible. I immediately had the instinct to just do the deed and just get it over with. That was crazy. I can't believe that was putting pen to paper. And he was like, "Yeah, that's good enough. That's good enough to publish."
Yeah, you shouldn't write a chapter of a book about how actually death hurts when your comedy makes death feel like a sweet release.
Yeah, holy shit, man. That is, god damn. Wow.
All right, Christopher, thank you very much for the generous $20 super chat. Hello, Mr. Zadanza. I found this money while cleaning the producer/talent restroom. It's stuck to one end of an unrolled toilet paper with the unread leading to your shoe.
Wow.
Well, thank you.
We have a talent restroom. Is that what's going on here? That's crazy. I didn't know that.
I do want to point out that just you go through our chat and you just pick any average comment, and it's better comedy writing than this book.
100%. But to be fair, Zod, that's a pretty low bar to clear. Okay. I would hope our chat would be funnier than Brad Stine of all people. I mean, again, Brad Stine's just showing me that, God, if you're white, you can do fucking anything in this country. Holy shit. You can go on tour. You can write a book. You can do anything as long as you're white. It's incredible. It really is.
Well, it also helps to be a Christian.
Yeah,
like if you're white and you can just get a little piece of that Christian market. Not everyone can do it, but if you manage to swing it, you can make it with no talent.
Yeah.
Okay.
DEI. You know? Anyway.
Well, DEI is the only reason that he's not like doing Netflix specials right now.
Yeah, I wonder how much his residuals are paying for these days. Probably 2 cents a month or something. Who knows?
I don't know. He probably got like $3 off of us.
Yeah. Well,
it sounds like you're going to be late as fast as you can. If you were running, you should have made it. So he really needs to belabor this, running late is a weird phrase thing.
Right.
Others try the phrase running behind. Running behind who? Me? And I'm not even moving. You know why? I'm waiting for you.
Oh my God. What the fuck?
Okay. I'm gonna
All
start
right.
glossing over some more of this.
Okay, great. Thank
That's
you.
just the flavor of his opening comedy routine, and we have
My
to
God.
give a feel of that. It drives me nuts. But if you're Christian, you constantly have to walk that fine line between forgiveness, non-judgment, and holding someone accountable / righteous indignation. That is clumsy use of slashes. I like how he says if you're a Christian, you have to walk the line between judgment and non-judgment and holding people accountable and not. Like, is that a Christian thing, or is this just something we all deal with as people? Like how much you push an issue versus
Well, here's why. Because Christians Christians at some point are allowed to kind of judge people a little bit, right? And they have to
Mhm.
litigate that. Like gay people, absolutely. You're allowed to judge them. Now there's
Yeah.
more commonly Christians will say, "Oh, we're not allowed to judge people," but there's a reason. Okay, there's a reason that they even have an opinion on it. It's because people will judge you, and also a million other things, getting divorced, stuff like that, right? So in
Yeah.
Brad's world, it's not about if you can judge; it's about how much, right? So that's what it is.
Well, yeah, but see, that's what I don't like about this. This is an example of how Christianity just totally narrows and muddies your thinking. Like this really is an issue of how much is something. It's as simple as how much is something a big deal, and do I need to let it go or do I need to address it? That's partly a pragmatic and partly a personal thing, and everyone needs to walk that line. How does that have anything to do if you're a Christian for one thing, and then for another, just the way he addresses it in religious terms? I don't know. I don't need to park on that, but that kind of stuff annoys me.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how rude, inconvenienced, and angry we are, what is the phrase we always hear spilling out of our mouths? So when someone's running late, Dan, and they say, "Sorry, I'm late," what do you usually say?
That's okay. Or oh my God, where were you? My daughter is dying because you're late. I don't know. It depends on the situation.
You took it in a slightly different direction.
Okay.
Your first one, don't worry about it, is basically what he said. We
Okay.
usually find ourselves saying, "No problem." Oh, sorry, I'm late. Oh, no problem.
Yeah. No worries.
No problem. How can it not be a problem? Yes, I envision a utopian world where people decide to show up at any arbitrary time without regard for the rest. So this is actually,
Oh my
if you've
God.
watched enough of his comedy, you'll recognize the no problem thing is a big bit he does. And his big punchline is, well, he one thing he says, otherwise, what's the word problem for? Just math? Now,
I
I want
want
to
to
read.
give this man a wedgie and shove him in a locker. Like, I want to bully him. This is so fucking nerdy ass pedantic bullshit. Like, who gives a
Okay,
shit? Oh my
I
God.
want to I want to share this sentence with you on a visual level.
All right.
Let me type it in here.
Evan, Evan said, the day of my daughter's dying." It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Evan's killing it today.
Okay, I'm about to put this on screen.
All right, I'm
This is
eagerly
exactly
anticipating.
how he wrote the sentence. Otherwise, what's the word problem for? Just math.
Are you serious? He didn't
Yeah.
even. Oh my God, nobody read this book. Dude, actually nobody read this book because like that's such a basic fucking thing to change. Wow.
If
Wow.
Yeah, I would hope better than this from a high schooler writing a half-assed paper for me. Like,
Like again,
sure,
it's not an email, it's a book, right? Like I just expect higher quality. I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna be like English teacher Zod and correct every single thing people type on the internet, but I am gonna fucking judge you if you're like this every other goddamn paragraph in your book. Holy shit, that's crazy.
well, even in this case, if you put otherwise, what's the word problem for? Question mark, capital J, just math. That's technically bad grammar, but
Yeah.
it makes sense and it's easy to read. This sounds like a child just running sentences together. And see, I don't care about the technicalities of grammar. The other one would would at least be readable. This sounds just stupid and it doesn't flow. It takes you a second to pause and figure out what he's saying.
Yeah, you're right.
And you don't want people pausing to figure out what you're saying when you're trying to write anything, much less comedy, where it all depends on the rhythm of what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just had to point that out because I found that atrocious.
Yeah, it's all right. I shouldn't, I shouldn't allow you to catch strays like that. I know that you don't really care. You're playing up for a bit, just FYI. So
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah.
put that out there. But also, somebody put this. Someone who said really is their username, which is great. Said he could have at least used Grammarly. Is that so hard? To be fair, this was what 02 we found out 04
Oh,
when
four,
this
I
was
think.
written. So Grammarly not a thing, but Microsoft Word definitely a thing. And they were doing the squigglies with the
Yeah.
underlines. Okay, so
And also, I'm sorry, no matter who you are, that should, if you're a grown adult, that should stick out like a sore thumb. If you think
Yeah.
you have any business, right? I mean, okay, there are a lot of people I know at work who I help them with emails and stuff, and they might do stuff like that. That's fine. But if you're publishing a book in any capacity, even if you don't consider yourself a fancy author, you should catch that, or somebody checking your book should catch it.
Right.
Also, this was, even though it was originally written in 04, this version was reprinted in 2020.
That's
So,
right. That's the reprinted version. Oh my
yeah.
god. Stupid. That's lame.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Jake Kelsey probably had Clippy to help, the OG Grammarly. Do you remember
He would
Clippy?
probably have some dumb joke about it. He'd be like, Clippy? What's up with Clippy? Huh? I don't want a paperclip telling me how I should be writing my book. I don't know. There's a Brad joke in there somewhere.
Yeah. See, if I could see him doing that and then saying, like, kids in my days, they didn't need something because we paid attention to our writing. Well,
We didn't
clearly
need
you
an
don't,
animated
dumb mother.
paperclip telling us how to spell things. We just learned how to spell, and if you got it wrong, your teacher would smack you in the ass with a ruler. I don't know. Something barbaric.
All right. Anyway, we have otherwise what's the problem for just math? And here's his big climax. And this is the climax of this clip.
Y'all are so funny today. I can't. That's funny. All right, go ahead. Sorry, continue.
No problem. I think that's the word we should use more often. Problem. They come dancing and saying, I'm running late. Ha ha ha. Story of my life. And you can imagine him doing this. And I think this is how he did.
Yeah.
Okay, story of my life. Ha ha ha.
That's right.
Then we say, problem. So that's this whole thing. You're supposed to say, sorry, I'm late. Problem, not no problem. Get it?
Okay. Let me ask you a question here. How many pages are we into this chapter right now?
Three.
That's 3 pages too long on this bit. He really is just recycling his whole comedy bit into paper here, huh?
No, that's exactly what this is. He's just these first few pages recycling his bit. I'm going to try to go through this a lot faster once we get through this, but you got to just the comedy part you can't gloss over, I feel like.
Yes, I agree with you there.
Okay, so he talked about that whole everybody runs late and the whole problem, no problem thing. I want to read this one little section here. Nowadays, the need to avoid hurting someone's feelings is more important than anything else we do. And you probably already know what direction this is going in.
Here we fucking go. Oh, geez.
Including the expectation of common sense and personal responsibility. Offending someone is the progressive's worst nightmare. They're driven by its implications. Of course, everyone else suffers for their commitment to it. If tolerance is the progressive's god, censoring dissent is their hatchet man.
Oh God, this is why Donald Trump won the presidency. Okay, it's because there are way more people like Brad Stine on this earth than I wish there were. My God, that is insane.
I think that's actually a pretty insightful thing to say.
Yeah.
That whole everything with him can just on a dime veer into just shitting on progressives. And why do we accept people running in late? It's not because it puts you in an awkward position and you just want to like let it go. You don't want to confront everybody. No, it's because the progressive don't want to censor anybody, or not censor anybody. They want to censor everybody. They don't want to they want to tolerate everybody or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It's
they're intolerant. That's the other thing too. They play both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. And he played both sides in that thing. But the coming in late thing has nothing to do with that. That's as simple as somebody walks in the door and you feel uncomfortable confronting them, so you just let it go. That's just human nature. But you don't have that, of course, has to turn into a thing.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's like, what's the, like, is he ranting that people are late and nobody does anything about it? Because people get mad about that shit all the time. He's just mad about the general concept of people being late, I guess, which is
Yeah.
like, I don't know, kind of a normal thing.
Apparently, everybody called everybody out for being late until progressives said you couldn't,
Ru-
you know.
Yeah. Oh, so that is the amazing needle through the thread there. So he is saying literally because people are late or people getting away with being late is because of progressives. Like
Yeah,
that
he
is
says nowadays the need to avoid hurting someone's feelings, blah 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 blah.
yeah, that's
So I'm sure back when
incredible.
America was great again and we had water fountains for different types of people, everyone you showed up late
Yeah.
and people would just call you out for it.
Yeah, I could just show up an hour late to work and nobody cares. It's all great. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's the progressive America we live in. It's really cool.
Okay, so if you're wondering how this connects to death, here we go. Saddle up. As a matter of fact, the only people we will accuse of being late and tell them to their faces are dead people. We'll say the late Fred Gerard or the late Ethel Slazo. Yeah, they are late. You know why? All caps. They're dead. Not only are they late, but they think it's a safe bet they're not going to show up at all. But I think it's a safe bet they're not going to show up at all. So
that's the connection. That's what we've all been waiting for as the tie-in here to the chapter title. Wow.
So Brad, you can picture how this went. Brad's going to write a chapter about Christians and death and how they approach death, and he wants to shoehorn some of his comedy in, and he realizes the way to do it in this chapter is the whole play on words of the late somebody, and he could put his whole running late comedy routine in front of it.
Yeah,
that was so
okay. It's a choice, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting to get these glimpses that help you go back and picture those wheels churning up in little Brad Stine's
the one single gear in his mind.
I don't want to spend more time thinking about that than I need to. I don't need to live in his head, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Death is one of the greatest paradoxes of humanity. We know it's one stage of existence everyone must enter. No one's exempt. We all know we're going to die, yet somehow we really don't believe it. Why else would people ask, given the news of their impending demise, why is this happening to me? This demonstrates the delusional world we continue to inhabit. I could understand the phrase, why now, but never just why. Every human being has one thing in common. We are terminally ill. So basically, he's acting confused about the fact that people ask why when they die, because factually, well, actually, you should know you're going to die.
Yeah.
So why are you confused? We all die.
Yeah.
It's just,
it's a very simple
fact of the matter that we can know it factually, but it's a big thing to confront.
Hey, Brad, I got a little secret for you. We all fucking know it. Okay. Like, it's kind of a rhetorical question. All right. I don't know. Brad doesn't strike me as the type to always pick up on great social cues. So maybe we have to explain what people mean when they talk about people dying. I don't know.
Yeah. A vehicle pulls out in front of you and you're screaming toward it at 65 miles an hour and can't stop. You're going to be like, well, I knew this would happen someday. Like, just sit there calmly. No, you're going to freak out because that's
unless you're I'm sorry. So, there's a popular movement of stoicism going on right now by people who don't read philosophy and maybe will listen to some YouTube regurgitate, Marcus Aurelius and think that they're super cool because they're emotionless. Okay. There is a culture that likes to emphasize that kind of stuff because there are some people out there who genuinely struggle with empathy and they think that's a good thing, right? It's sort of like a reification of this like very bad thing that people have, which is the ability to not connect with other people well and think that you're super awesome for it and are better at making decisions than others because you're just so calm and rational, when really it's just you don't give a fuck about other people. So I can see the through line here in Brad's work, obviously, children with cancer notwithstanding, but also some of the stuff we've seen here, right, of how he's like, yeah, if only everybody was just on time like I am, or if only everybody was just more callous about death, then the world will be a better place. It is interesting to see that ego in there.
This has a little bit of that terminally ill people aren't brave energy to it.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, so he goes on about that. We all die someday, and you shouldn't be shocked by it. Yeah, Sparrow the Sissy. But that's obviously very overly simplistic. It's never going to be easy to hear. You only have a few months or a year left.
Yeah.
If Brad were to suddenly hear that his family member was going to die or he was going to die or something like that, he would probably be affected, which I don't know.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is,
here's the sad thing, Zod, maybe he wouldn't be, right? I mean, maybe he genuinely wouldn't be. I don't know.
He makes all these jokes, but remember, the whole point of this chapter is supposed to be that we are supposed to be affected by death. So it's like he's kind of supposed to be exploring both sides of it, but it just comes off as jarring because he just yanks you one way and then the other. But
yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so you want to hear him riff on monsters here for just a second? I'm going to gloss over this pretty quick.
A riff on monsters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even in the movies, we can't conceive of eternal life on Earth in a positive light. I love how he says we can't conceive of eternal life on Earth in a positive light. So, like, all these problems with living eternally, we're going to shove that to the back of our head if it involves heaven. But on Earth, it's a problem. I don't know. I love how he just tried to bypass that.
Yeah, that's okay. Interesting.
The only people you see who never die are monsters. And they talks about zombies for a while, how they have superhuman strength. They can only walk 1 mile an hour, but if they happen to catch you, blah, 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 blah. Funny stuff about zombies, I guess.
Wow.
But what exactly are monsters so angry about anyway? Just how tough can their life be? In my opinion, they've got it made. Think of all the upsides to being a monster. And he just talks about how you have no fear of the dark. You don't have to pay bills and dumb shit like that.
What the fuck are we talking about?
I know.
Are we? We're talking about the benefits of being a fictional monster now and how great that is. I thought, why?
And his keynote. Go ahead. I'm talking.
I just can't imagine the actual target audience for this book, which is nobody, but somebody unironically bought this book, right?
Yeah.
Were they good with this? Like, were they pleased with this purchase? Because this is the ramblings of a madman right now. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why we're talking about fucking Dracula in the middle of this chapter about complaining about dead people and people being late. This is so strange. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't.
Fletcher from on high says he probably read this chapter to his dying grandma.
I bet he did. I bet his grandmother died and they had a funeral for her and he didn't go, but he sent a book in his stead. He said, "Here, check out my book," And
he wrapped it in a neat little package. Handwritten note on the front that said, "She wasn't brave."
She wasn't brave. Remember, she wasn't brave.
Everyone can die. What kind of courage did that take?
Yeah, come on,
Grandma. But yeah,
wow.
I love that he says they don't have to be afraid of the dark and they don't have bills. Ha ha ha! Great comedy there, Brad. But by the way, this rambling thing, what it feels like to me, it has a lot of the Babylon Bee trying to be the Onion energy to it, where you saw the format and you try to reproduce it without any of the talent or any of the So I think he knows that he's probably read comedy books or at least been exposed to them to some extent and know how they kind of like they segue in with some comedy, make a point, go here and there. But it really is hard to do that well. But I think he saw the format of it and just reproduces it without any thought or any skill. That's my impression anyway.
Yeah.
Because this does bear an uncanny resemblance to that kind of writing. It just is bad.
Yeah.
Oh, but there's a downside. I'm skipping over some of this. They don't have to pay bills and they don't have to be afraid of the dark, but they're lonely because people always run away.
Oh, it's so sad.
Something about the hanging eyeball and missing skull cap is usually a dead giveaway, he says.
Still talking about, I guess, just general monster paraphernalia. Is that the joke?
Yeah.
Okay. It's very weird. This is very strange.
So, but he says, but I don't blame you for trying to make friends with the living. It would make life a lot easier for you and give us, Christians in particular, the chance to practice our altruism. So, he has to take a little jab there and point out that Christians are the real altruistic people, I guess.
Wait, I'm sorry. Who was the subject of that sentence? Who was that towards? Was that towards the monsters?
So in the middle of talking about the benefits and drawbacks of being a monster, he says, you have to deal with this. So I think he drifted toward addressing the monsters in kind of a rambling way.
Okay, so that's what I thought. So he is now addressing the fictional monsters and saying you are the way you are because of X or whatever. Okay. We're in deep weird territory here. I don't know what the point of any of this is, but okay.
So we're going to take a hard pivot toward the point here in just a second. Right, and I want to read this whole part so that you can feel how he does it. So he says, it'll give us, especially Christians, the chance to practice our altruism. Hey, if you need something, let us get it for you. We'll probably have better luck since we can go shopping in the daytime, when stores are open. We don't have to smash our arms through the windows or anything, ! Just another one of the many perks for those of us not in the final stages of putrefaction.
I don't understand. I just don't understand. Like, am I dumb? Do I not get this? He's talking about zombies. Like, he's talking about he's making concessions towards fictional monsters right now. Like, he's not talking to anybody. He's not talking to real. Okay, this is, I don't know. This seems like, are you reading a children's comedy book right now? Are you sure you didn't get your book mixed up? Because this is not how adults frame or conceptualize information or understandings of the world, right? Like, this isn't how functional adults in the world do that, or no?
Yes, Jessica Bell, putrefaction. Let me read it more. Let me read it better now. And by the way, I want to go right through this because he ends with what's supposed to. I can get the feel of what he thinks he's doing here with this like shocking, gross language or whatever, but it just is clumsy. But then look how he pivots after this. We won't have to smash our arms through windows or anything. Just another one of the many perks for those of us not in the final stages of putrefaction. Anyway, the point is, how are we to think about death?
Okay. Wow. Interesting way to lead up to a point, Brad. And by interesting, I mean, what the fuck, dude? This is beyond my comprehension. We're entering a space in thought that I didn't even think I had ever accessed, but here I am, and it's fucking weird that you're doing this to me. Why are you making me think about this way? I don't know.
Okay, done with it. Done with this crass comedy about monsters. Anyway, now the point's about death. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I feel like I've been put on a roller coaster without my consent. That's what it feels like right now. Like my brain and body is just all over the place here, listening to you talk about this, and I don't know where it's going, and I want to get off the ride. That's for sure.
And the roller coaster doesn't curve. The rails like have 90-degree turns, so you just stop and throw in your sheet, and then they shoot you the other direction.
This is an unpleasant reading. I'm sure it's an unpleasant reading experience. It is an unpleasant listening experience. So, I don't know about this one.
Okay, so how are we to think about death? And he says the Bible tells us about death that it's frightening and disturbing, something like that. After all, it gives us instances of two different and significant people reacting. First, there's Paul. Mm-hmm. Paul saw great hope in death because he said to live as Christ, to die as gain, blah, blah, blah. But wait a minute. Aren't we supposed to be living a life of joy on earth indescribably superior to our fellow humans? So Christians are supposed to be, I guess, living superior lives,
Okay, sure. I mean, that's a thing.
So we all know those people who everything's great for. I'm just paraphrasing here for a second. And then to quote the kind of person who, as you watch day in and day out looking for some chink in the armor, just seemed to get healthier, more assured of themselves until you finally just wanted to puke. Very Brad Stine.
Yeah.
But then he says, yet no matter, and this is kind of him getting to the point, no matter how advanced we are in our spiritual walk, we all have some degree of apprehension about death. That's natural! ! Of course.
Oh, well, good that he acknowledges that it's fucking natural, because he made people feel like a real piece of shit earlier for even talking about it. My God.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. His point is supposed to be this, that we still feel bad about death, even though we're Christians and stuff. But he's just so all over the place. He like comes at you so hard about something that's supposed to be a preface or an aside beforehand that you have trouble knowing what his point is supposed to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, sure, you can play the American Christian game of assuring all of us how you long to enter the kingdom of heaven of God, and I'm sure you do. We all do. But the truth is, most of us are going to get there by dying, and dying is spooky.
This is a comedy book for kids.
Dying is
spooky.
spooky.
That's awesome. I don't know. I hate that he made me like that sentence. But like, again, it's not in the way that he would want it to be. It makes me take him less seriously because that's just how a child would write about death.
I already took him all the way on seriously, and somehow I still managed to take him less because of the sentence.
I don't know.
He says it's supposed to be spooky because it was the first punishment for man's sin. Blah blah. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, we're entering like 2010 era Tumblr ways of describing things now. Just calling it spooky and stuff. I don't know. It's just very bizarre. This man.
Death is unnatural. Our bodies weren't designed to die, and considering your body does all the dying, our spirit takes it from there. In parentheses, it hangs on with everything it's got. For the true believer, well, first off, I think it's funny that he's supposed to be telling Christians they don't understand death or they're misunderstanding death. When I feel like he's showing a lot of lack of insight into death right here.
That's true. It's like, hey, Brad, have you actually seen somebody die? Because you're talking about it as if it's like a fun Halloween prank and not like a real life situation that affects people. I don't know.
Well, and he also says death is unnatural. When just earlier he was talking about it's just part of life and we all die. So which is it, Brad? Is it part of life and we all die, or is it not natural?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
But death is about as natural as anything else. It's part of the cycle. It's part of just the way the world works. How is it unnatural unless your whole sense of how things work is warped by this idea that it's a punishment for sin? It's just kind of dumb.
Yeah, I agree. Very silly.
Weird. So just to blow through some stuff. He says death should be painful because it's a reminder of separation from our creator. Yeah, sure, Brad. That's why we're bothered by death, because it reminds us of that separation. And then also it keeps us we know it's going to hurt our loved ones. So that's part of why it bothers us. But then in parentheses, he has to just like get shitty about that point. Why is it, by the way, we all generally hold ourselves in such a position of esteem that we can't imagine how our loved ones could possibly get along without us? That's not the point as much as it's not. It doesn't mean you're the center of the universe. It means people come to love you, and so they're sad you're dead. That's not.
Yeah, has Brad ever actually seen anyone die? I'm now like worried. I mean, I guess at this point in his life, certainly. But at the time of writing, does he actually know how this works? Because it sounds like he's only knowing it in the abstract.
Yeah. I also feel like there's some projection here. And I don't mean projection in the sense of you're trying to project your known weakness onto other people. I mean, in a kind of narcissistic way. He thinks a certain way, and so he assumes everybody else does.
Right.
Because, Brad, just because you think you're the center of the universe doesn't mean everybody else does. And that's not why they think their family's going to be sad when they die.
Yeah, that's definitely a little bit of that going on, too. Gosh, Brad, I can't believe I'm saying this. Doesn't strike me as a pleasant guy to spend time with.
Yeah.
Seems like this guy's kind of a jerk, Zod. Huh.
I'm starting to wonder if he's nice.
I don't know about this guy. Maybe we got to read his book more and figure out some more details.
When he said that all of us atheists are the weirdest people and he can't understand us, blah, 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 I kind of had my doubts, but I'm still hanging on to that faith in humanity.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to wonder.
I'm a little confused at what he's saying here. Well, anyway, I guess we keep going.
All right. Authentic Christianity hates death, so he likes the phrase authentic Christianity, of course.
Do you need a break, Side? You good? Because I can bring out bingo or something. Because I said I was going to bring out bingo today. Maybe at some point I should do that.
I'm good. I want to power through this and make sure to get it done. I think that we'll bring out puppets toward the end. Is that all right?
Okay, that's fine. I did say I would. So I gotta follow through on my
You
promises.
know, Bingo can chime in at any point if you want to have him start commenting or whatever.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'll take you up on that.
Okay, here's a great sentence. This is one of my just absolute favorites from this chapter. Authentic believers should be the most in touch with all the expressions of emotion God has given us, which I think is just a little dehumanizing.
Say that.
Like,
Wait, I'm not sure if I understood. Say that one more time, that sentence.
authentic believers should be the most in touch with all the expressions of emotion God has given us.
So he literally thinks Christians are the most empathetic people on earth. Like they have the greatest capacity, I guess, to do that.
Yeah, you know, we're the true believers. We're the authentic God followers. But not only have we chosen to obey, not only are they, willfully sinning and stuff like that, nobody besides us even truly understands feelings and emotions. Like,
Yeah.
it almost seems like he's insinuating we're all animals or something on some level. I mean, am I reading too much into that?
This is how Christianity is kind of taught in a way. Like you are inherently better than other people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would you be a Christian if not, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's like really poking through here. He's just not subtle about things. So, oh man.
Yeah, that's unfortunately, I think you're right. That's not a unique thing to him. That's kind of growing up in church and everything. I think we all thought that we did everything better, and that probably involved true expressions of kindness and charity and just emotion and feelings.
Right.
And I think that's why this hit so hard for me, is I kind of remembered that thinking. I didn't really put that connection together, but that probably is why that, yeah.
It's not great.
Okay. So think about it. What is going to encourage a non-believer most in the midst of tragedy? Because Brad is just so concerned with how you encourage non-believers, shit on them in public on stage, make that your whole shtick.
Right.
And then wonder, how we can really show them kindness and heart.
I would love to meet one person that has come to Christ through Brad Stine, by the way. I want to know if they exist, and I want to know what they're like as a person. So if you know anybody, please let us know.
Careful what you wish for there.
Oh no. Real monkey's paw, huh?
What's going to encourage a non-believer most in the midst of tragedy? The Christian who encourages them with what has to be the most inappropriate phrase ever be uttered in front of a child's casket.
Okay, that makes more sense.
He's in a better place, or the equally insensitive, it's God's will. Truth is truth, but not when it's distributed with a discretion designed to heal. Truth is truth, but when it's not distributed with a discretion designed to heal, it comes across exactly as it is, insensitive and frankly stupid. Now, I think in isolation, those words are correct, but there's just something profoundly not self-aware about Brad Stine saying that.
Yeah.
I don't think he uses discretion designed to heal. And as a result, would you say, Dan, that it's fair to conclude that he comes across as insensitive and frankly stupid?
I don't think he's ever used discretion, period. Like, let alone designed to heal. Brad Stine is not a subtle man. It's so funny to see him lecturing other people for like basically tone policing how other people should talk about Christianity, and him being like the biggest fucking asshole on earth. Like, hey, think about this, Brad. You've had more reach and influence than most Christians in human history, period. Right? Yeah. Like, just period. Like, there's only very few people that have the reach and influence that you have had and had the opportunity to do. How many Christians have you won over, my friend? Because if we had to pull up the numbers right now between you and, like, I don't know, a Francis Chan or something, like, I don't think you're going to do it, bud. Like, I don't think you're the man that people go to for this. So, wow.
Incredible. And I could see him converting some people. I would think it was probably people who already had some of the shitty right-wing takes he has, and because of his comedy associated them with Christianity or was brought into a church or something like that, and that I could see that connection being made. But still, I love the whiplash from page 21. Nowadays, the need to avoid hurting someone's feelings is more important than anything else we do, blah, blah, blah. And now discretion designed to heal,
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like he knows what he's doing isn't good, but he does it anyway.
Or that he just forgets what he said a few pages ago, and
Yeah,
is
or just sincerely has a lack of self-awareness, which maybe is most likely.
yeah. He lives in the moment, just blasting out whatever he feels at that time or whatever opinion he has without any thought to what he thought before. Stupid.
Yeah, it's really lame.
I think along with not being a kind man, he's probably not a intellectually disciplined man.
Yeah, really lame.
But yeah, he's basically the elemental manifestation of not using tact and discretion. Like he actually glories in it. You know, he shouts at the screen about how stupid everybody else is and blah blah blah. So I guess we beat this horse to death.
I agree. He's almost like, this is a weird brain thought I had, but like the opposite of Bill Nye the Science Guy, because he's conservative and Bill like is a big smart man who dumbs things down for kids, and Brad is a big dumb man who tries to smart things up for adults. So there's something to that, I think. And both at least attempted a comedy. One was more successful than the other. So
instead of trying to dumb things down, he tries to smart things up.
Yeah, he's trying to make himself smarter for it by trying to make his metaphors about zombies into real big talks about death. Like, that's the other thing too. Like, has anybody emotionally resonated with this? Like, oh wow, I never really thought about it that way, Brad. Wow, that really made me put to peace, the life of my grandmother that I just had to bury 3 days ago. Like, what are you doing for people? I don't know.
By the way, I don't know what it was you said, but Biddy says my dog is mad at how funny that was, Dan. So I think apparently you made someone laugh out loud. And
I guess so.
Dog.
Well, that's pretty good.
Oh my gosh, Fletcher from on high. I kind of do want to see this in an ironic way. I want to see Brad Stine make parody music videos about wokeness.
I would totally watch that. Absolutely, I'd watch that. At some point, we do need to watch a movie of his or something. That what was it? The sizzle reel that you showed us has to be a top 5 Sedanza moment for me. I don't know if I have ever laughed that hard on this show. Actually, all the times I've laughed hardest have been involving Brad Stine. Now that I'm thinking about it, so it's we'll get to it one day.
Okay, so page 26 and most of 27, he largely does the Lazarus thing, and you probably get what the point of Lazarus is, right? The whole Jesus wept thing.
Sure.
So, and I've heard other Christians say this. Even though we go to heaven, and even though Jesus was God, and he knew he was going to raise Lazarus, he still wept, and he cried because he joined other people in their compassion, and he was still moved by it and all that stuff. So I think we can skip over
human side, right? Or whatever. Yeah.
He spends probably a page and a half just talking about that. He does have to conclude with there's still a legitimate element of sorrow in the experience. This 3-dimensional life we live is the beginning edge of eternity for our existence. So he's starting to wax a little philosophical here.
Right.
Yet it is the only time in our eternal existence when pain is the norm. Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage and we are just players on it.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm dead serious.
Shut up. He did not quote Shakespeare.
Yep.
Oh
it's
my
right
God.
Here. If you can, I don't know if you can see it. If anyone can make that out.
Brad, which Shakespeare play is that from? I'll give you 10 seconds to tell me if you're watching right now, to what that is, because I guarantee you don't even know. Not that I'm trying to be elitist about Shakespeare plays. It's just, if you're gonna be that fucking guy, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not even, having been an English teacher, I'm not that big a fan of Shakespeare. Like, some of it's pretty good, but I feel like it's kind of overrated by reputation. He has a really good way with words, but yeah, Brad just knows a few specific common quotes and is just, I don't know. It's the dumbest way of trying to make yourself sound smart. Like, I would go out of my way not to quote Shakespeare even if it applied to something, just because it sounds like a high school. Well, Shakespeare once said.
Yeah, Shakespeare once said. The Oxford Dictionary defines death as like I'm surprised he didn't do that route. You know?
Okay, so after all the words on stage, we're gonna have another little pivot here. Would you believe that?
Another goddamn pivot. Okay.
We traded eternal intimacy with the Creator for the desire to be with Him. We die.
Wait, run that back for me. Say that. What the fuck are we doing? Holy shit. I know you just said.
Sorry. I
pivot,
read
but...
that wrong. Wrong. Let me read that more clearly.
Okay.
We traded eternal intimacy with the Creator for the desire to be Him. So
when did I don't remember making that trade. I don't remember hitting accept offer. What's going on there?
Well, clearly you did if you're an atheist. You just
I didn't accept that cookie into my browser. What the fuck? I don't know about that.
Yeah, so basically instead of wanting to be close with God and be in relationship with God, you want to be God. Typical.
No, I fucking don't. Why who says who? Brad? What the fuck?
Well, you're an atheist. You've denied God in your heart. Ipso facto,
I want to be God of the fucking universe. What? No, I just want to live my life, man.
This is vanilla Christian apologist stuff. You know?
I know. It's just like out of all the things to pivot, it's just such a random. I don't know. It's dumb.
Oh, trust me, he has not even begun to get vanilla apologist yet. Just you wait.
All right, hang on.
We die, we still believe it's unfair. We continue to utilize our severely limited capacity of reason to find fault with God over this issue without full knowledge of the facts.
Awesome.
Yet
this is him defending authoritarianism again.
Yet we somehow believe we should be exempt from the consequences we brought on ourselves. Justice never seems to enter the equation, or at least a justice that makes sense to us. Hell is an extreme punishment that doesn't fit the crime.
Yeah, this is again. We have to trust the dear leader in his decisions. Okay, he is the righteous and perfect one. Like, imagine if you told like a conservative was making fun of Biden. Okay, they're like, oh, I think he sucks. I think he's not doing good stuff. And what if we were like, you just want to be president, don't you? I think you just want to be president in your heart. Like, what the fuck?
You just want to be your own president.
Yeah, you just want to be your own president. Yeah. Like, it's just so fucking stupid. Even when I was a Christian,
well, clearly the only reason Brad Stine criticizes us for being atheists, he wants to be his own atheist. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's true. You just want to be your own atheist. That's why you don't like him.
You just want to be your own evolution.
You want to be your own evolution. You want to be your own evolutionist.
But anyway, do you see where this is starting to turn right now?
Yeah, I see it. It's dumb. It's boring.
He dipped his toe ever so slightly into the actual topic of this chapter, and now we're like veering into hell apologetics.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I shouldn't say boring. Actually, out of all the kinds of apologetics, actually, I find this to be the most fun / fascinating, because it is just, again, a defense of authoritarianism. Like every single time, it is always just, you just gotta trust the dear leader, and he's gonna make it right. But you just gotta trust him, and that's it. And there may or may not be good reasons to trust him. So, you know.
Well, he's basically saying when you criticize hell, you're not letting justice enter into the equation. Like, you're just thinking lovey-dovey mercy. You don't think of justice. The whole point is that doesn't seem very just to me.
Exactly.
Like, but then his retort is at least a justice that makes sense to us. Well, yeah, that's the whole point, is does stuff make sense to us?
Right. Yeah. I want to do things that make sense. Why would I want to do things that don't make sense? Right. Or follow laws that don't make sense, or rules that don't make sense. Because, like, what's hell doing for people? It's not doing anything. It's just eternal punishment. What's the point? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. But you're just saying it doesn't make sense to you. Don't you realize some things can
I think also too. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I was interrupting you.
Okay, just think about it logically, Dan?
Yeah.
You think it doesn't make sense, and in your mind it doesn't. But have you ever considered that I'm asserting that there's a God who is above you and doesn't have to make sense to us?
This is literally the book of Job. This is just what the book of Job is right now. But no, I think conservatives like Brad have to say this shit because it forces them not to reconcile with how dangerously fucked up the incarceration system is in the US, right? And other places, because it's like, oh, you supposedly you're going to serve this time and it's what's just and it's what's fair and it's what's like best for people, even though time and time again, like, that doesn't make sense. And how much more brutal obviously is hell, right? But of course our justice system is also equally brutal and doesn't actually do good for people. So I don't know.
Yeah, this is I think this shows where Christian thinking can like lead into the problem or feed into it. At least it runs parallel. Like the whole idea people have this idea that if you've done something wrong, something on a gut level feels like something bad should happen to them. So they should spend a certain amount of time in prison just because you need to even the scales out.
Yeah.
Realistically, the only reason to punish somebody or to put them in prison is to number one, isolate them and restrain them so they can't continue harming people, or number two, to rehabilitate them. And there should be a better outcome for them and the other people. If you really think, I know some people even within this chat, and maybe even you might disagree to some extent, but I don't think the goal should be just to see something bad happen to somebody. If somebody committed a crime and tomorrow I could do something that wouldn't hurt them at all, but it would make them better and make me and society better, we should do that. Like, but they have Christians, especially once they get to the point of apologizing for, and I mean apologizing in the sense of excusing the idea of eternal torture of people, then you're not going to start refining your idea of what justice is and why we should have justice, because your whole religion depends on you not thinking about that and in fact thinking the opposite. And I find that very unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about retributive theories of justice all day, but it's just at the end of the day, there's no world in which a hell system makes sense. And you can say it's right all you want, you can say it's objective all you want, but you can't say it makes sense. So I don't know what to tell you. And Brad, Brad doesn't care about people who are incarcerated, right? Let's be real. So
so speaking of really insightful things, we try to bro through these last few pages.
Let's do it.
Nobody ever thinks they deserve eternal punishment, but you never have any problem persuading someone that they can have eternal paradise. Ha, zing, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, people want good things for themselves. I don't know. It's not that fucking hard of a concept. Yeah, what an insight. My God, this man's a genius. Has anyone nominated Brad for the Nobel Prize here for his innovative fucking thinking? It's incredible. This man.
You beat your kids and social services comes up, but nobody complains when you give them a Christmas present.
Oh my God, that's
fundamental
so true.
Different things.
Yeah, this is a real fucking Joker moment here for Brad, right? This is a real society moment here. Oh my God, holy shit.
Well, if you don't have a problem with everyone, living in eternal bliss, then why do you have a problem with torturing people? That doesn't make any sense. Shut
up. That's so dumb. You're right. That was really good, Zud.
I don't think Brad Stine, he doesn't even think about that stuff because he turns on his little comic play on words things to try to address that from the God's comic perspective. And he did this with he did this even when he was shitting on Protestant Christians. He points this in all the wrong direction. He points this in the wrong ways in all directions. Like, just because the play on words works doesn't mean that the two concepts are interchangeable and that you can catch someone in some kind of hypocrisy.
Yeah. You know what's sad? And I'm in complete speculation here, so I'm probably way out of line. But Brad strikes me as the kind of guy that got beat the fuck out of as a kid. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that to make fun of that, because that's fucking terrible. But it's this almost sounds like a way to justify that kind of upbringing. You know what I mean? Brad strikes me as the kind of guy who probably punished his kids with corporal punishment. I don't know. This is that kind of thinking, right?
I would close to bet money on that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that's the through line usually. What do you think about this situation, Bingo? We haven't talked to you in a minute. I think you should beat the fuck out of those kids. Fuck them kids. Thanks, Bingo. Appreciate it. All right, continue.
He says that God created the punishment he said was deserving of the treason of the devil. God didn't quit on us. Satan wasn't apparently even given a chance to repent. So I don't know. That is an interesting question. Why didn't God allow Satan to repent and he allowed us to repent?
Satan's a cool ass motherfucker. He don't give a shit. He's a real anarchist. He doesn't give a fuck. Well, that's good insight, Bingo. Thanks for that.
Yeah, that's smarter than anything else we've heard so far today. Okay, think of this irony. If there's one thing I'm always wanting to know, it's what does Brad Stine think is ironic?
Right. 100%. Does Brad Stine have a concept of irony? I don't know.
I don't know. He probably listened to that one song. Was it?
What song?
It's like "Rain on Your Wedding Day" or something like that.
Yeah,
I forget.
Ironic that whole thing. Yeah, that poor artist. For the rest of her goddamn life, she's gonna receive messages in her DMs about how it's not ironic. She made a mistake, folks. We gotta let it go. How many years ago was that?
Wow. You don't need to be well actualing people 20 years later. Sorry.
Yeah, incredible. Anyway.
All right. Think of this irony. His power alone allows us to exist, so some of us can use our existence to deny his. For God then to pay for the sins of such a pathetic creature and still allow him the right to choose to despise him is beyond my ability to comprehend. God's patience is miraculous.
That's great, because there's two lines of thinking that Brad could have gone down. Is, wow, this is beyond my ability to comprehend. It's almost as if it's bullshit. Or, wow, this is beyond my ability to comprehend. It must be miraculous. It's really great. Yeah.
But I want to read this just one more time.
Yeah.
Before I do, this whole thing is supposed to lead up to him saying that God's patience is miraculous, right? He's talking about how patient God is to us.
Yeah.
But I wrote a little note here saying it doesn't feel like this paragraph is really about God's patience. It feels more like it's about Brad's exasperation with non-believers, and he's expressing it passive aggressively.
Yeah.
So his power alone allows us to exist. So some of us can cause our existence. I'm sorry. I keep misreading this. His power alone allows us to exist. So some of us can use our existence to deny his. For God then to pay for the sins of such a pathetic creature and still allow him the right to choose to despise him is beyond my ability to comprehend. God's patience is miraculous. I just feel a lot of times when Brad talks about this, it's meant to include everybody, but it's really targeted at atheists. And he's supposed to be talking about how merciful God is, but really he's just talking about how irritated he is with non-believers. That's the way I feel.
I guess so. He said the whole Christian lines about being broken and stuff, so it's hard to tell. But I will say it is kind of funny that, like, how great is that, there's people that can believe that God doesn't exist because of their reasoning capabilities, how pathetic they are. But it's like, didn't God make us that way? Like, why did he make us that way then? Like, if he didn't want us to perform that way, I don't know. It's the classic fucking, bullshit argument that a 2007 atheist YouTuber would love to look at. But I don't know.
And of course, here's just a quick tour of some of the ultra typical hell apologetics.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the pain of allowing someone to choose hell because you refuse to force someone into an inauthentic relationship with you.
Yeah, I love that.
The two options are an inauthentic relationship and not being in hell. Sure.
Would you rather be permanently tortured for all of eternity or have an inauthentic relationship with your creator? Right? Like, oh, wow. Yeah. Ooh, well, we can't have that now, can we? Send him off to the pits. That's the only just thing to do.
Right now, I'm not in a relationship with God. I tend to think he doesn't exist. And Brad might say I deny his existence. Yet somehow at this moment, God is not forced to choose between having an inauthentic relationship with me and torturing me. I'm living okay in terms of comfort right now. So God has the ability to reconcile that. This isn't like a forced choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
God could have me just exist on earth for eternity or just cease to exist or something like that. This is obviously it's just a after the fact rationalization.
Yeah, real silly stuff.
All right. It's bad enough. I just love the way he says this part. It's bad enough to cease to exist, but to spend eternity in damnation is the one area humans refuse to accept. This is the one area which God is constantly getting a. This is the one area for which God is constantly getting a bad rap.
Wow.
You get a bad rap just because he tortures people.
Man, yeah, that's crazy. God should work on his PR, you know?
But you want to hear vanilla. There is a huge difference between the idea God throws people into hell and he lets them choose hell.
Again, I didn't sign up for those terms and conditions. Like, this is like the same motherfuckers who talk about like, oh, it's social contract theory. You know, everybody just goes into the situation, just accepts it for what it is. Like, no, they fucking don't. That's not what a fucking contract is. Like, you sign and agree to a fucking contract. You don't get born into a fucking contract. It's just like, you know, how meaningful is it if you don't get to opt out? The whole point is that you don't have to sign into something. If I'm forced to sign into it just by being alive, I don't really have much of a fucking choice. It's just very silly. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do. Can I read this comment from The Prestige? Because
of course,
this is pretty. I like that it's in all caps, and it makes me want to read it in a funny accent, which is like, God hates Brad Stine because he is a groveling worm. God respects the strong who do not believe in him. I like that. That's a pretty good comment. The
That's
Prestige.
great.
I don't know why it was in all caps, but I appreciate it regardless.
I love too. I'm doing my next big on my new main channel. My next big project is talking about the Hobbit book, and I'm listening to an audiobook version of it to like review it as I drive and stuff, and then make notes. Your reading of that sound exactly like the guy reading that book when he does Bjorn.
Oh, heck
guy
yeah.
He turns into a bear.
I'm all about it.
All right. So anyway, we're coming near to the end of this. There's a few more. Let's see. He goes from hell apologetics to we just want the ability to do as we choose without consequences. So he goes into some people just don't want the responsibility for what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting to deny our responsibility is the same immature mentality that sparks anger in us when a policeman hides in the bushes to catch a driver speeding. Rules are always meant for the other guy. I'm kind of skipping around here.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, if that policeman caught someone speeding and pulled them out of the car and lit them on fire, I think no matter who it was, we would all have a problem with it. So he's just, I don't know.
Also, being a snitch is being a snitch. Like, you know, you can still be mad at that. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, come on. What's the deal with that?
Yeah.
There's a reason why we don't put people at 10 years in prison for going 5 miles over the speed limit. Like, humans have an idea of some things being worse than others, but apparently God doesn't, and it's all the same. And that's why it's kind of fucked. Like, you know.
Fletcher says a medley of lame Christian talking points.
Yeah, it's true.
That's basically, I'm going to just breeze through these. That's basically what we have going on here.
All right,
rules are always meant for the other guy. God hates hell, and he hates when any of his creation choose to go there. But don't blame God for being consistent to his character. Interesting pair of items there. Number one, we're choosing, but then God's being consistent with his character. So it's almost as if he's saying God sends us there. But like, don't blame someone for being consistent with their character is literally just saying don't blame someone for following their impulses no matter what the consequences.
Or just like he's just doing his job. It's the Nuremberg defense for God. He's just doing his job. Right? Like,
but it's not even his job. It's what he feels like. Nobody's pressuring him into it. You're literally saying he's doing what he feels like, so don't blame him. Like,
or just
Brad
doing
Stine
his
would
nature. Yeah.
Yeah, but his nature is literally just what he feels like. That's all that could mean.
His nature is perfect, Zod. It's objective. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're bypassing.
He can do what he wants anyways.
All right. You want? I'm again just skipping through these, just like a line per paragraph or whatever here toward the end. You want more grace? Every moment we exist on this earth is grace. So you know you got to live for a while. So don't blame God. God finds no. We're coming on the home stretch here. So
again, I imagine Brad saying that to a child with cancer. By the way,
yeah,
just put that image in your head.
Oh, that's
see how that affects.
Yeah.
That's never not funny.
That's one reason. That's one reason it's not brave is because you already got plenty of
Yeah.
grace. What do you
You've already
whining
had
about?
grace. You've already had grace, Jimmy. Except your 6 years of life. Okay. What are you crying about?
I already didn't beat you for a full week.
Oh my
Jeez,
God. Oh,
what more do you
Jesus.
expect? I mean, isn't that roughly what he's saying?
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
All right. God finds no pleasure in punishment any more than we parents do on earth do. And then he says, there is no monster in heaven who finds great glee in throwing someone into the midst of eternal damnation. I do want to say, by the way, besides all the philosophical questions and stuff, the Bible clearly depicts God sending people who don't want to go to hell into hell. Like that's clearly in the Bible. When
Yeah.
it talks about casting people into hell, there's a place of judgment. And in some cases, they're pleading with God. And he says, depart from me. He doesn't say, depart from me into the everlasting fire if he doesn't want them to go. And they're like, no, God, we want to go. Like the Bible clearly doesn't say it. I'm sorry. You're just making this shit up.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're skipping over it because you're reading kind of fast, but there's a little haunting line in there of like a parent has to, a guy doesn't enjoy it just like a parent doesn't enjoy like punishing their child or whatever. It's like, ugh,
Yeah.
ugh, that's a little grody. I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
I mean, if God presented us with roadblocks or little bits of pain or discomfort in order to prod us towards something better, and that was the only way, say because he wasn't omnipotent,
Yeah,
then it would make sense for him to do that. But hell has no end goal.
yeah, and also that's just like how you talk about training a dog. Like that's just not how you talk about a human being, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So just to round this out, he's done talking to the non-believers. He said basically he's saying this is your choice. God doesn't throw you in hell. You have a choice, and you've made your choice. But as for me, I have chosen another destiny.
Oh,
And then he carries on about how I'm going to spend my life with my creator and blah, blah, blah.
wow, good
Of
for him.
course, he makes some interesting concessions here right at the end. And you're probably never going to believe where he lands at the end of this book, or the end of this chapter.
Really? Okay.
Totally out of left field, completely
All right.
original.
All right. I'm ready for it.
Of course. Now this one, and I mean after this concession. So he makes this concession, and then how he reconciles it is going to be the big surprise. Of course, it's possible this is all an illusion. A true follower of Christ can't know any of this is true. Only what we believe it to be. The world of God is outside the five senses, of course. It's outside our ability to perceive, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
To pretend it's not is not authentic behavior to the non-believer. I believe what I believe can withstand intellectual scrutiny. Any belief system that can't withstand intellectual scrutiny is not worthy of my allegiance. We'll discuss this later, but I'll leave you with this thought. So he makes an interesting concession there. I can't prove any of this to you. I can't even know this. It's just what I believe.
Yeah, but also any belief that doesn't hold up the intellectual scrutiny, it doesn't owe my allegiance. So I don't know what's up with that. That doesn't seem to jive, but okay.
And I love how his big, I don't know if I would call it a boast, but his big thing is, I can't really know this is true, but I still believe in it because it stands up to scrutiny. Like this verges on, I have no evidence for this, but it's been constructed in a way over time so that you can't prove it wrong. It's been made unfalsifiable, basically.
Yeah, this is the problem with Brad as a Christian author, is because he's too honest and he's constantly giving the game away. Right?
Yeah.
Like he's not subtle. He's saying like, yeah, I don't have evidence for this, but I believe it anyway. But he's not saying it in the flowery language that you typically see with other kind of apologists. So it's really interesting to kind of see that.
Yeah. Jessica Bell says scrutiny in quotes, and I want to keep that thought in mind for a second here, because he says stuff about holding Christianity up to scrutiny, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just let's keep that in our back pocket for a second. I want to circle back to that. But first, he says that he can't prove it, but he says, I want to leave you with this thought. Any guess what his final thought is now that he says that he can't prove Christianity and he just holds up to scrutiny? You have no guess where Christian's going to go with this?
But there's evidence anyway.
Okay, here you go. you're gonna it's gonna blow your mind.
All right. Okay.
If atheists are right and there is no hereafter,
Oh, okay.
only eternal unconsciousness, the
So
sad conclusion is they'll never know.
Pascal's fucking
Of course,
wager.
if
Okay.
they're wrong, they'll know forever.
I don't know why I didn't see that coming. You're right.
And in case he hadn't made it explicit enough, that, to paraphrase Pascal, is a gamble no rational
Oh
person
my
should
God,
take.
he actually quotes the man himself. Oh God! All right, shout out to Jason Sherwood. Jason called it actually.
What's
He
that?
said it. Jason Sherwood called it. He said it before you talked about it.
Yep.
So shout outs to Jason. Oh man.
This motherfucker wrote a book. He's pretending he's an intellectual.
Yeah.
And he circles back to Pascal's wager as his fallback.
It's incredible.
Pascal's wager, the thing that like 99% of apologists even laugh at. Come on, dude.
He's a real
And
intellectual.
The sad thing is, Christians, probably not most Christians, but some Christians do read this. And when they see something written on paper by somebody who's like pseudo clever to an idiot, they think it means something. Like they think it means something when he circles back to Pascal's wager. So when you see people in comment sections or at the Thanksgiving dinner table, well, what if you're wrong? Blah, 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 blah. That's all been reinforced by the fact that they saw a Christian author say it. And so fuck you, Brad Stine, because you've made people think that idea has any legitimacy, as completely stupid as it is.
You know what's funny is that, celebrities will have books out and a lot of it's written by ghostwriters or edited by folks, which it is what it is. But you can tell that Brad probably wrote the majority, if not all of this, just because how fucking dumb it sounds. Like it's just not even trying. And it's so much in his voice that I can at least give it props for that. I know that this is a Brad Stine text more than anything else. So I don't know.
Yeah. But let's circle back to that scrutiny thing here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole point of
scrutiny, I'd like to scrutiny myself. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Bingo. Thank you. I had to give him. He needed more screen time. He has had not enough today.
Thank you, Bingo. I've missed you, buddy.
Yeah.
So, but remember, this whole chapter is supposed to be about scrutiny of Christianity, right? And how Christians think.
Yeah, sure. Allegedly, I think we were spending about a quarter of the time talking about zombies and their feelings. So yeah, I don't know. Was this what the chapter was about? Maybe. I guess an argument could be made.
Yeah, this is supposed to be about scrutinizing how Christians think about death, right?
Yeah.
So look back and think about, and you're already starting to allude to this, how much time he actually spent on that topic versus like shitting on atheists, making asides about progressives, stupid jokes about zombies. I actually counted out of this, what is it? 19 to 32. So there's like, there's like 13 pages in this chapter, right?
That was 13 pages.
Yep. You know how many pages?
God.
You know how many pages he spent talking about Christians and their attitude toward death?
How many?
3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say like not even that much.
3 of those 13 pages were about how Christians address death. The whole other thing was jokes about running late, jabs at progressives and stuff. Apologetics and how non-believers just blah 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 blah. So he can barely even pretend to write a book that's criticizing how Christians think. This is supposed to be 11 assumed truths that make Christians look stupid. This is supposed to be him turning his attention away from atheists and liberals and stuff like that, and really diving into. He can barely even talk about it. Almost all this chapter. It just sounds so passive aggressive. The whole time he's criticizing other things, mostly atheists and non-believers and progressives.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Like 13 pages, and how much of it was just shitting on other people? Like a good chunk of it. Like, how can you say you're the nicest, most empathetic person because God gives you super secret empathy that nobody else has access to, and at the same time just absolutely have the most garbage takes about other human beings, and also like not being a very impressive gentleman yourself. Like, I guess the biggest fucking complaint, the biggest fucking problem you have going on in your life right now, Brad, is that people are fucking late sometimes. Okay, wow, incredible. Like, you know, talk about calling the kettle black. He's over here talking to people about how they need to be grateful for their lives, and he's being petty about stupid bullshit. Like, I don't know.
You know, the inherent crime to running late, and by the way, I'm not a fan of running late either, but there is a way to be an asshole about it, and he found that way.
Yes, that's true.
But the core problem with running late is that you waste people's time.
Yes.
Brad Stine, who wrote this book that people are going to spend their time reading, is being critical because you were 15 minutes late.
Yeah. And how much time is wasted?
A few more than 15 minutes of someone's time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're making good use of it, but
we are redeeming this book far beyond its market value. I will tell you that. I will tell you that right now.
Yep. Anyway, that was chapter 3 of Brad Stine's book. Yeah, not only does he have the shittiest takes and he's just totally, I don't know, untactful and just kind of inhumane toward other people, shitting on other people comes so naturally that he can't even critique his own religion without just doing it reflexively. And that's what most of that chapter was. So well done, Mr. Stine.
Well done. Well done, sir. That's the thing. Like, if you're gonna be an asshole, if you're gonna be that character, you know, and shit on other people, at least one, be coherent, but also funny and like sensible and reasonable. But he's not. He's just an asshole. And like, there's not even the veneer of like intelligence to it. Okay. Like, we talked about George Carlin before. Like, George Carlin is legendary because he's fucking funny when he's an asshole. Like, that's the difference. Like, and George Carlin probably maybe was an asshole. I don't know. Maybe he was a nice guy. I don't know enough about the man's personal life. I do know his comedy though, and it's fucking funny. Like, I don't know. I don't have to question the morality of it so much because, like, I get what he's going for and he does it. Like, with Brad, I don't know where the fuck he's going. I don't know what the fuck his point is. And I can't tell if he's being funny or if he's actually genuinely a moron. And the problem is he's both a moron and not funny. So I don't know. Very mixed reading here, Brad. Not impressed so far.
I think those were some fine closing thoughts right there. So we'll wrap it up at this point. Thanks everybody for being here. Like, comment, subscribe. We have a Patreon if you want to chip in there. Up to you if you can afford it. But until next time, good night, everybody.
Adios.
Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. La 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 la, la casa del merengue. La 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 la, y la casa de la bachata. Música, música.